Ay, 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 DJ JR. Give it up for DJ JR. Thank you so much. Guys, I'm so happy to be back. One moment. I do apologize in advance. I still am a little bit ill, so I do have a cough remaining. So if you guys hear me coughing, that's why. I'm sorry. I know it's not ladylike, but yeah, I can't help it. I think it's going to stay with me for a while. Let me see. Thank you. Welcome in, Tim. Hi, Guru. Hi, Sir Obadiyahu. Sorry if I butchered that. Let me see. Hi, Ozzy. Welcome in. Welcome in. Hi, Dale. Welcome. Hey, Larry. And hi, Boa. Guys, let me know if you can hear me fine because I don't see. Okay, there it is. Okay, I see it now. Sorry, guys. I couldn't tell if you could hear me or not. Okay, so this topic is about something very sensitive and very common. So I understand that a while back we did a show about daddy's girls. You guys remember that? Pardon. You remember the show about daddy's girls, yeah? Where we were talking about how there's the man, sometimes the father, is the first simp for the daughter. You guys remember that, right? So in this case, we're doing the opposite way. We're talking about the toxic mother and what it does to the son, what it does to the son. So I know this is a sensitive topic to a lot of people, guys. Please bear with me. I am going to be as raw because I'm not here to like sugarcoat it and say, okay, it's not really that bad. No, it's bad. It's pathetic. And I think we need to speak on it because I've noticed that here, let me pull this banner up for you guys so you guys can see. Who and why does this typically happen to? Or who to and why does this typically happen? Typically, because we have an epidemic of single motherhood in this country, this is becoming more common than not. And before, at least there was a balance in the homes mostly. But now we see that many boys are being brought up with just a mother. And this is going to be more and more common that we're going to see sons that are attached at the hip to the mother. And the mother takes full advantage of it because she wants that. She wouldn't have it any other way. No? So, who does this typically happen to? I'll give you an example. It typically happens to single mothers who have boys, or it can also happen to mothers who could have been married before, but let's say the father is always out of town. Let's say he's always working, he's always on business. Or maybe the father has gone somewhere to live in another place, but they're still married. They're not divorced, but they're still married. These kind of situations tend to leave that void inside of a woman where she will make her son into her husband. It's sick. It is really sick. Hi, Patty Cakes. How are you? Man, I miss you guys so much. I know I haven't been here for like 2 weeks. I've been so sick, guys. I've been going through it. But I'm so happy to see your guys' names again. Hi, Mr. Seal. Welcome in. Okay, so this is what I want to speak on. And I wrote down some notes because this is a topic that I know everyone has seen it before. Everyone has a story to tell you about a man that they know that is almost married to their own mother. It's yeah. Anyway, okay. So who to and why does this typically happen? This typically happens because us as women, even if we do not have a spouse, we still have a void that needs to be filled for protection, for comfort, for I wanna say admiration too, in a way admiration as well. Because you as a woman, even if you don't have a spouse, it doesn't mean that you still don't have that need for that protection. And the next person you're gonna see it in is that little boy sitting next to you. You're gonna make sure that he grows up knowing that mommy is perfect and that you will do anything possible to make sure that mommy is happy. You do want your mother to be happy, right? And women, we know that boys have a soft spot for us because for boys, I've even speaking to boys in our family, they always say there's always that really soft spot in their heart for the mother, but especially for her because she is feminine. She is their feminine ideal almost in a way. Don't go ahead of me, guys. When I say feminine ideal, I don't mean like he wants to marry her. I mean, this is what he has grown up seeing as the model of femininity. So if he sees mama, and then he's going to say mama is perfect. So I dare not try to have her upset or have her feel like I'm abandoning her like possibly my father did. I want to take that place because my father abandoned her, and I'll be damned if I'm going to do it too. I'm not going to leave her on the side of the road. I will be the rock that she needs. If a boy has to grow up thinking that way, thinking that I have to fill these shoes, my feet are like this and the shoes are like this, but I'm gonna fill it no matter what I have to do. I'm gonna fill those shoes. This is what they call emotional damage. Emotional damage. That's what it is. Emotional damage. So that's already bad enough for the boy to have to grow up thinking that I have to make sure that I don't do what my father did to my mother. I have to replace my father. So this is who it typically happens to. There could be cases, if like when you guys call in, please tell me cases that you've seen that are different that this has happened to. But from my experience, from what I've seen in articles or you read, this is typically who it happens to, and this is typically why it happens because there is a void and someone needs to fill it. And unfortunately, most mothers don't really, single mothers especially, you won't. It's not like you're going to say, no, son, I want you to be a boy. I want you to grow up the proper way. I don't want to force you to do this. Most women, I believe, they want to see their boy grow up and be strong and no responsibility. So they'll just let it happen. Just let it happen and say, you know what? He's going to grow up. He's going to take care of me, and that's going to make him a better man. No, it won't. It won't. It makes him damaged. It makes him afraid. And it makes him have a sick relationship with the mother, unfortunately. And I know a lot of people don't see it as sick, but it is sick. And speaking of sick, I start coughing. So I want to bring up my next point with you guys is this. What is the difference between a mama's boy and having a healthy respect for mama? What's the difference? So a lot of people may even see men that love their mother and say, you know what, he's probably a mama's boy. No, 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 not always. There are men that know the difference. And the main difference between a mama's boy and a man who respects his mother is boundaries. The ability to look at your mother and say, Mother, I respect you, but no, no, I'm not going to do that. The problem with the mama's boy most of the time is that mama's boy cannot say no. He puts mama above everyone and everything else. Isn't that noble? Oh, that's so noble. He cares about his mother so much that he puts her above everything. That's not noble. That's emotional damage. Because the point of a parent to be a mother and a father is to make sure your child grows up and he can live independently without you. And he can become a contributing citizen to the place that he lives, a person of value, not so he can just be a value to you. That's selfish. That is so selfish. But a lot of people don't see a problem in it. So I wrote down my list and I said, what's the difference between the respect and a mama's boy? The mama's boy, he sucks up to mama. He will suck up to her. He cannot say no. He puts mama before every and anything else, including marriage, including women, including other, I want to say, everything else, even children at sometimes. Even your own children can come behind your mama because you have the emotional damage. I'm going to keep saying that, guys. Because that's what comes to my head, okay? I'm saying it because that's exactly what comes to my head. Is emotional damage. That's what it is. And he never needs a woman when mama's around. If mama is there, I'll give you an example. So let's say, let's give an example of mama. Mama, she washes his clothes. She cooks for him. She cleans for him. Everything that he needs, he has it with mama. Yeah? When a woman comes along and says, I want to do this for you because I am your woman. I'm your woman. It's my job to clean for you, to cook for you, to take care of you. Well, if she's a proper traditional woman, she will say that. Now, some women might say, yes, let's keep your mother as the maid. That would be lovely. Bring mother-in-law over to do all the housework that I don't want to do. But a proper woman would not say that. Anyway, proper woman will say, I am going to do these jobs. What a mama's boy will say is, you don't do it like my mother. I don't like the way you do it because my mother does it this way. If you can't do it like my mother, I don't like it. I have seen men now, culturally, I'm going to give you an example. Culturally, in Middle Eastern culture, there are many mothers that have over control of their sons. They, pardon, they are controlling over the son. They are manipulative. They'll use tears. They'll use shaming tactics, just like Kevin Samuel says. Sign language, shame, insult, guilt, need to be right. She will do all of these things over the son. And this is very common in Indian, Asian, and Arab culture. This is very common to see boys who cannot say no to mama. So what typically happens is this. When he starts complaining, he's like, oh, you don't do it like my mother does it. I don't like it. I have seen men who live with their mother. They're married and they all live together in one house. And when the mother cooks or what have you, he eats like crazy, just eating, buffet time. When his wife cooks, he won't even eat her food because he's so stuck to his mama. He's so just fixated on making sure, I don't know, it could be that he's just so used to his mother's food. I don't know. But at what point do you say, I am moving on as a man? Okay, I'm going to try different foods. Maybe my wife doesn't cook like my mother, but if she's a good cook, what's the problem? And if she doesn't know how to cook, you can ask for her to learn recipes. But I have seen men that refuse to eat their own wife's cooking. They'll eat a little bit just to make her feel okay. But when there's mama's cooking, oh, they're all over. What is a man like that going to do when unfortunately mother has to go back home? Because we love mama, but she's not going to be here forever. What are you going to do when she has to go back home? If he cannot even survive a dinner without her own food. Does that make sense? The next thing that I wanted to bring up was the respect factor. So a man versus the mama's boy, the one who respects his mother knows how to put boundaries. He knows how to put things where they belong in their designated places. That makes sense because it's called having a healthy relationship with mother and not emotional damage. It's called being healthy. And every healthy relationship has proper boundaries, restrictions, limitations, respect factor. It doesn't mean that you're sucking up. At the same time, you're not going to be disrespectful to your mother. You're going to tell her mother, look, this is that. I am a man now. I have my family. A man who is a mama's boy will go live with his mother. A man who respects his mother will have his mother come live with him. Does that make sense? There's a difference in power dynamics. And that's the point that I want to try to make that point, and anyone who calls in can feel free to argue that point. You can tell me that you think that is wrong, or maybe there's something that I'm missing here. But from what I've seen, this is a difference versus a man going to live with mother or having mother come live with him. The next thing is when a man respects his mother versus being a mama's boy, he will take care to make sure that mother is safe and sound and financially stable if possible. But he will not, and I repeat, he will not be the emotional stepping ladder for her. He will not be her pacifier because he understands mama has her own life. She has to live it. I'm not her husband. Next. And yes, I put it as a banner. Emotional damage. Emotional damage. Because I want to speak about the emotional damage because this is something that I see in the mama's boy that I feel bad for. I hurt for him because unlike the princess syndrome where it's like she is elevated and put on a pedestal, for the mama's boy it's the opposite. He's not put on a pedestal per se. He is expected to, it's like esclavitud. How do you say esclavitud in English? Slavery. It's like a slavery because I don't believe that the mother of the mama's boy respects the son. I don't believe that she cares about him as much as a mother who is properly raising her son. Does that make sense? I wanna be clear. It's not that the mother wants to harm him, but she doesn't know what to do. She didn't know where to put that boundary or where to make it stop. It's not like so a lot of them don't want it, but it just happens. And they're maybe clueless to stop it. And then a boy growing up with his manly testosterone, with his manly sense of, I need to protect, I need to do this, he's just naturally going to do that. And that's where fathers are so important, where the father can say, son, you can be a boy. You don't need to be the father here. I'm here. You need to be a boy and grow up just like Kevin Samuel said. He said one time, put the boy on the porch. Don't make the boy be the man earlier than he's needed to be. Let him grow. Let him stay on the porch and watch for a little bit first. And this is where I think this toxic mom, where she's, I'm sorry guys, the toxic mom where she's just constantly in his business. She can't find a way out because his life is her life. The emotional damage comes from the mother, in my opinion. It comes from possibly even telling the son too much, maybe talking poorly about his father, telling him he left me, and sharing sob stories with your son. Because the thing about boys and men is the difference between girls. For girls, we like to hear the story. We like to vent. We want to just talk about the problem. It doesn't mean that you have to solve it, but we want to talk about it. Thing about boys, if a woman goes to a son, and talks about these problems, a boy's mind says, I need to know how to fix I have to fix whatever it is. I don't want to just sit here and vent about it. I'm going to fix it. Because how many women have ever gone to a man with a problem and they look at you and they're like, so now what do I do? They don't sit and say, oh my God, I feel so bad for you. Oh, did that really happen? Geez, I had the same situation. No, men say, what's the next step that I need to do to fix the issue? Because men like to fix. That's what they do. So think about that as a little boy growing up into his manhood, growing up into his protect and serve feelings that men have. Then the mother comes, oh, I've been left, and I'm tired and I'm struggling and blah blah blah. Every boy will say, I need to go into savior mode. I need to fix this. I need to be the band-aid. I need to be the man. I'm only 8 years old, but I need to find a way to be the man. It's I don't know, I just feel bad for the boys who grow up in this kind of situation. But at the same time, as you get older, you feel bad for him, but at the same time, you angry to him because you're like, why are you not learning your boundaries? Why are you not stand up to your mom? Tell him, stand up to your mom. They can't. It's it's impossible. Hi Bella, how are you? Hi Alexandra, nice to see you. So I mean, it's like a defect. It's emotion, not emotional. Developmental stunting. You're stunting the development, because the boy didn't get a chance to sit on the porch like Kevin Samuel said. He didn't get a chance. He just moved straight into husband of the mother. My last point before I open the lines is, what can a wife or woman do if she is with a mama's boy? What can she do? Because the problem will be obvious very soon in the relationship, because any woman who's ever been around a mama's boy, you will see straight away something is wrong here, something is missing, and you figure it out very quickly. But what do you do? Because in the end, the woman will suffer, the man will suffer too, but he won't know that he's suffering most likely because mama's there. But the woman will see something else, and if a woman tries to bring this up to her spouse, he might get offended. He might feel attacked, might say, oh, she's trying to separate me from my mother for what? What, are you jealous of my mother? That's a typical question that will come. Are you jealous of my mother? What's wrong with you? I'm sorry if my internet is acting crazy, guys. I'm sorry. It never lets me be great, does it? But a woman in that kind of situation, guys, the only thing that I can recommend is trying to be respectful of your mother-in-law, if possible. Be respectful of her, and try to slowly make more boundaries and see if your spouse doesn't flip out about it. But maybe slowly start making boundaries. Or if a lot of times your spouse, the husband, will say something like, let's go live with my mother, or let's do more things with my mother and my mother, because that's just how it is, right? Mother's going to be involved in everything. If he's a real mama's boy, mama's going to be involved in everything, and she's most likely going to know about all of your fights. She's going to know all your business, and that in itself is toxic enough, right? I mean, toxic enough thinking that you're going to have every problem that you have, mother is going to be involved. So I don't know, maybe slowly making boundaries, but honestly, when you're with a man like that, all I can say is that he's not married to you, he's married to his mother. And I really would like someone to call in and help me understand, what can a woman do in a situation like that? Is it that you need to just leave him to be with mama? Or do you try to make the boundaries that he didn't know how to make? Do you need therapy? Does he need therapy to get through this? Is there something else that needs to be done? Because I don't have a solution quite yet. I want to welcome in Mr. Kulik. Hello, Mr. Kulik.
How you doing there? Much respect. How you doing? This is a great subject here, and I agree what you just said. Also, you were breaking down the difference between a mama's boy And also, you just said something I've seen with my own eyes here. I have seen East Indian families, in particular, the husband. He's going to bring his mother to the house, and I always respected that. He doesn't put them, or I should say, he doesn't put his mother in a what you call the old family's home or nothing like that.
Hmm.
But he has his own. He owns the home. He brings the mother there, as opposed to, like you just said, him living with his mother. And
Right.
that's a good way to break that down. So I agree with that portion you just said there, because there's a difference. You know what I mean? But they haven't neglected the family structure. But he's still a man. He's still controlling his household, if you will.
Correct. So, what does, in the case, and my question to you is, what would a woman in a position like that, what would be the best option for her to do?
To follow suit and respect what he's doing, because what I've also seen is what that man does. He says you can bring your mother to the house too. So they have like
Right.
their own living compound, maybe be down. Depends on the house. I don't, whatever it be, apartment, house, mansion, whatever. But he'll say bring your mother too.
Mm,
So if there's a problem, we can say, well, I'm inviting your mother too. So it's like, we're all a family. And I've always respected it about East Indians or some Arab cultures or Muslim cultures. They bring the mothers there. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? Like, but they still have their kingdom.
mm-hmm. I agree with Cyrus here. Cyrus, he says that he needs to cut the dependency ties immediately with the mother,
Hmm.
which can be very traumatizing, I believe. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I will believe that will be very traumatizing because if you've grown up thinking that your mother needs you to be her husband, essentially, um, you would think that without you, she will deteriorate, right? So it will be scary, but I think that is the thing that needs to happen. And Cyrus also said that he'll end up damaging his wife. And that is the point that I wanted to get to because in the end, the wife is going to see what you can't see. You can't see because emotional damage, but she can see. And this is where you have the fighting within the marriage itself, where there's going to be disagreements and there's going to be claims of jealousy from the husband saying you're jealous of my mother, and then it's going to be her saying you're too attached, and God forbid she says the word outright, you're a mama's boy. Oof, all hell breaks loose then.
But it's crazy in this culture over here. They declare men being a mama's boy if you I don't know, check up on your mother, if you say you love her. It's just weird how this culture is nowadays.
Mm,
I don't it's like it's very extreme. Um so I mean, yeah, there's people out there, dudes out there that are mama's boys, definitely. But I mean, you can't really, as a male, nowadays, you can't really be, I don't want to say supportive of your mother, but you can't be I don't know. You can't what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to be nice here, but
well, that's
you
why I referenced the difference. That's why I referenced the
yeah,
differences
yeah.
between a man who respects his mother, which is noble,
Mhm.
versus a man who is a mama's boy who just cannot say no. He doesn't. He's damaged. That's not anything normal. You're damaged at that point.
But if you
That's
respect your mom, they'll call you a mama's boy. In this society, they will.
Well, that's different. I mean, those are people who cannot see the actual damage there. These are people who are just being, I want to say that that's a little bit too much just to say a person who cares for his mother is a mama's boy. No, that has to do with the other person. The real mama's boy, there's like I said, there's no boundaries between the two,
Hmm.
and there's that need to be everything to the mother. And men who don't even need a woman because they have mommy there. That's the most damaging part because it's like you're not even becoming a man, you're not growing up and making your own family, but you are only trying to continue the family that your mother has made in the house, which is kind of incestual in a way. Minister said beta.
I have a question though, but I'm gonna pass the mic here. What about some of the women that say you're a mama's boy if you want your wife to cook for you, clean for you, do stuff like that? Because I've been told that of my beliefs. Oh, you want to marry your mother, or you want me to be your mother. What do you think about that?
That's just another excuse that women who don't want to be actual women, who don't want to be a traditional woman use. That's just an excuse, and that's what they call sign language. That's just a
Mm.
way to put down the man who is requesting the woman actually do female jobs. She's just trying to find a way to insult you at that point by saying, "Oh, you're a mama's boy." That has nothing to do with actual reality because yes, I do understand that some women say, "Well, you just want me to take care of you. You just want me to be your maid. You want me to do well. What else are you there for?" I'm okay. I'm sorry. I won't say that. Okay, women, hold your skirts. Um, my thing is when you have a man and a woman together, a man is made specifically for a different type of work. Men, you want him to do the outside work. You want him to do all the lawn mowing and all of that, taking out the trash. You want him to do that. So, in the inside of the home, why not use your body that is okay with doing this kind of labor inside of the home? Why not use it for that? I mean, if you have a bunch of kids and you have to share the responsibilities, fine, fine. But yeah, like I said, just calling people names and saying you're a mama's boy because you want me to clean, that's a way of shaming you for requesting that she act like a woman. It's just a way to get out of it. That's all. Patty,
Hey, hey, how are you doing?
doing well, thank you. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Hello, Mr. Kulik. How you doing today?
How you doing there, Miss Fatty Cakes? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Listen, to answer your question, Mr. Kulik, those women don't know their role. They do not exist in their femininity. And any woman that tells a man that, I would advise the men to run, because this whole bad bee and all this is dangerous. You're setting yourself up as a woman for no covenant, no protection, no nothing. And I'll tell you this. So I'm married, but I do have neighbors that are female, they're roommates, and they'll like put their trash out for my husband to take out. You know what I'm saying? Like this is real.
Wow.
Or like I can say, hey honey, I need you to fix this. They will come. They have no problems coming next door to knock. Hey, can you do that? And it's like I had to tell him, I was like, no. I mean, I know you're trying to be nice, but no. They're so independent. They make their money. They bad bees. They can pay somebody to come and do the stuff that they need for them. Crazy. She's laughing. It's real.
I just what I see is that they see a man and they're like, oh, okay, you have a husband, we will share him, we
Right.
will share.
Right. It don't work like that, chick. No.
No, and I believe what Lone Wolf says here. He says the worst mamas are the ones that sit around their whole life unmarried and then want to control the son.
Mm.
This is the most toxic one, I would say. This is the most toxic example that you can give because it's like you had all of this time to find a proper husband, and you let that time go by just to watch your own son grow up and then try to force him to become your husband. That's the worst. That's the most selfish. The difference between, like I said, between Daddy's little princess being the father being the first simp of the daughter. That I brought that up to you guys weeks ago, and this is the opposite, the complete opposite. Because in that case, like I said, the princess, Daddy's little princess, she is elevated, put on a pedestal, told that she's perfect no matter what, and blah blah blah. In the case of the mama's boy, it's the exact opposite to me. He is not elevated. He's not elevated in position. In fact, he is treated like the servant, like he's almost put down in a way like, oh, you come from such horrible blood because you come from a man that wasn't even man enough to stay here with us, or you come from a man who abandoned us, so you need to rectify this bad blood and bad omen, and you need to be everything that I need in order to correct this. And this is why I don't know, I do feel for the mama's boy. I do feel for him. But at one point, there has to be a time when a man grows up and just, wakes up one day and says, no, no, I'm going to make my own life. I'm going to have my own family. JB, if you want to come on, please give me a wave first, and then I'll bring you in. I'm sorry, guys. I'm still coughing so bad. Um, Queen Lala says, lol, the mother that be like my son ain't nothing. He is just like his daddy. He's going to break your heart, but the mother herself totally depends on that son the entire time. Awful, awful. See, that's why I say it's a way to get inside the psyche of that boy so he can know that he needs to impress mother. I see you, JP. I bring you. That she needs to impress mother, but he's not good for any other woman. He's only good to her. He's only valuable in her eyes, no? That's what she's probably going to tell him. You're only valuable for me. JB, welcome in.
Hello, Ameera. How you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Still
Oh,
sick, but here we are.
okay. Well, I have some first-hand experience with this actually, because my mom, she's like, she would forego relationships for a while and just raise us. And she would say that, I just didn't want to have no man around you, and all that. But I see now that we're older, I'm focused on my relationship, and my sister, she's in a relationship. She would almost try to like inject negativity into our minds about our relationship every time we talk to her or visit her. It's almost like now she's by herself in the house and she doesn't know what to do with herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why don't you go out and seek somebody in a relationship? Like you had a few people, you pushed them away. Like what's going on? Like I can't. I could stop by, visit, talk to you, take you out to dinner. I mean, what more do you want me to do?
Well,
Like,
that's the difference, JB, between the boundaries. Remember, I said that the
right.
difference between a mama's boy and a healthy relationship is boundaries. Like saying the mother, the mama's boy mom, she's not going to be happy with you coming to visit and then going back to your own life. She's going to be like, "How can you just leave me here when I sacrificed for you? How can you just go, do your
Yeah.
own thing and leave me sitting here? You know that I'm alone. You know I don't have anyone, and you're going off and living. This is a shaming.
Yeah.
Start shaming you."
And it has like held me back from progressing in my relationships. Like she's had issues with my girlfriends and past relationships. And then it's just like I'm going back and forth, this tension, and it's like I can't grow the relationship, and I gotta like stop talking to my mom for a while, and I gotta like it's too much, man. Like I'm just trying to like live my life. That's all I'm trying to do.
You're like, I'm just trying to be great, and you're not letting me.
You know what I'm saying? And like I can't be everything for you. You got to find a companion. You know, I'm not saying you have to get married, but you got to find some type of male companion. Like you need that. That's a natural need. I
So what
believe.
did you do, JB?
So like I would just talk to my mom and set boundaries. And then I would feel bad because I would have to stop talking to her for a while because she would cross my boundaries. But like it hurts, but you got to do it. You know what I'm saying? If you want to establish the boundaries, because it's been so long. She's been raising me, so she think you can say or do whatever you want with your son. But that's not the case. Like as you get older, it's like things change.
So are you married now?
No, I'm not married. I'm single right now. I was in a relationship, but that relationship ended. And a lot of it, some of why it ended is because of tension from my mom. But there was also other stuff. But my mom, she had tension and was just being negative about my relationship. But there was other aspects too as well that ended the relationship. So now moving forward, it's like I got to be very protective of any future relationship that I have when it comes to my mom and let her know like I don't need to hear your opinion every time. I don't need to, what I'm saying, like because it's just injecting negativity in your mindset. That's what it's doing. So when you go home to your significant
Mm-hmm.
other, you looking at them in that way, like you don't even
Yeah.
know it. That's what happened in my last relationship. And I think
Definite G is right. He says you have to show your mother that you're a man now, and she needs to be. Oh no, she needs to recognize and respect that. Let me ask you a question, Patty. Have you ever been in a situation where you've been with a mama's boy, or almost dated one, or married one?
Yes, I have.
Yes, without a doubt.
I, I I was dating a guy and he did propose to me. And I was like, okay, this is the man I'm gonna marry. But then he started talking about his mother. Well, would it be okay if she moved in? Would it be okay if she? And I was like, did she prepare for herself? Because the way I was raised was you're supposed to prepare. Even if you lose your husband, if you're a single mom because you've lost your husband, let's just say that. You don't want to impose that on your son. You want to make good decisions so that you save up and you put yourself in a nursing home with other other people your age. So
Well,
you
how
can
about not
so
a
you,
nursing home, but an actual family, a husband,
yeah,
hopefully.
I mean to just the things that he was saying was always pertaining to her. And I went and I had a conversation with my father. And my father was like, "Oh, no, you got to make the decision for you, but that's not how what we do in this family."
Mm,
So, I mean, JB, I do understand. I get it. I mean, the advice I would give to you is to not talk about your relationships. If she asks you, "Oh yeah, we good," and leave it there.
right, right.
And encourage her, bring up some things. "Oh, mom, I saw senior cooking classes." It's just, you know what I mean? Like she needs a hobby.
She'll
You
probably
start
say
enrolling
See,
her?
she needs to be involved with other people so that she's not in you or your sister's business.
exactly.
Hmm.
Yes, that's why I'm telling her go back to church, please.
What about you, Mr. Kulik?
Um, I by definition, I would say we're all mama's boy in terms of this feminism nation. I mean, when I look at the whole psychology of it and how men are moving, I would say we're all mama's boy, even if they don't have a mama's in life and don't even, subscribe to that doctrine. I would say basically a lot of us are just by
I
default.
disagree. I disagree there. But go on.
Okay, and the reason why I'm saying that is because when I look how things are nowadays and how men move and how they want to make women comfortable and they don't want to ruffle feathers or they don't want to challenge, their masculinity and nothing like that. I'm going, okay, where is this stuff coming from? It really comes from the mother. That you go through the school system, you go through the indoctrination of the job and college and blah blah blah. So that's why
Mm,
I'm saying, basically a lot of us, not all, our mama's boy, even if the mama was not there. We're living
mm.
under this mama's boy feminazi doctrine. So
You're talking about the gynocracy.
just the culture, yes, in the culture. I'm just looking how men are, what men are doing. It's like everything is based off.
But there's a difference in psychology between the gynocracy versus actual this mama figure living in the home with you and you growing up thinking that you have to protect her and only her. Do you know what I mean? I
I
understand what you're saying. I
yeah, yeah.
think I understand what you're saying. But
I
there is an epidemic of single mothers. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
yes, no, it is. I agree. You're right. I'm just saying, whether they have a mom in the house or no mom in the house. I'm just looking at how men that are claiming they're alpha or whatever these terms are nowadays, red pill or whatever. I'm just looking at how they're coddling women and their femininity, and they don't want to chat. They don't want to say certain things. I don't want to do this, and that really starts. The mother's like the first step of the breaking of the male, the young boy, and then again, like when they go to work or college, they really get indoctrinated with this poison.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But I don't know. I mean, and that's another thing about putting the women on the pedestal and putting the men down. It's I guess you can say it is common too in the whole mama's boy dynamic as well, where the woman is perfect and she can do no wrong, and the man he has to be the servant and he has to be the one who fixes all the mistakes that the woman makes, who is there to wipe her face whenever she cries, who is there to, be that band-aid whenever something goes wrong. And I don't know. I really feel bad about that situation. I want to ask you guys this. Here, let me pull up my banner. I have my banner here. Did I miss anything here on this banner where it says what is the difference between a mama's boy and respect for mama? Did I miss anything in particular? If you see a difference between a man who respects his mother versus a man who's actually a mama's boy, did I miss anything? Because my main point was boundaries, but is there anything else that separates the two? Yes, no.
Well, I just spoke, so I'm waiting for somebody else to.
I don't
Patty?
I don't I don't think you missed anything. I mean, I think when it comes to a man that respects his mother, you can tell by the way she acts towards the wife, though. You know what I
Really?
mean? Like, yeah, I think it's a difference. I think there are some really good, moms that have a impact to where he knows his boundaries, and he knows if he goes to his mother and asks his mother for advice, if she's a really good mom, she will just tell him. She's not going to bash the woman. She's going to ask him questions, and she's going to give him some really good advice. But as far as a mama's boy tells her son what to do, you need to leave her. You need to, you got to go. She. Oh no, you know what I mean? She is not good enough for you. So I think that's the difference.
No one can take my spot. I am the queen in his world, not you. Wow. So the automatic rejection of any other woman is a clear sign that.
So like when you was talking about Ameera earlier about the food, like my mom, she loves to give me food. She's always calling me to get food. And then my mom would say, like, does your girl cook? And my girl, she didn't cook like that. And she was like, you need to stop getting food from your mom because it make it seem like I don't cook. I know, but I'm hungry, you know what I'm saying? And I want to eat something. You know what I'm saying? I can't eat just like frozen pizza, heat it up and stuff like that.
Did you have the same situation where it's like, well, I don't know about you, because what you're saying is like you were with a girl who didn't cook?
No, she didn't know how to cook like delicious meals. She cooked some things, but like her mom knew how to cook very well. She like old school, but she didn't know how to cook because she don't like. Yeah, so it's like her mom was like, I could have taught her how to cook, but she ain't want to learn how to cook. But I'm like,
she ain't want to know. You the mama, you the parent. What?
You know what I'm saying? But like so that was the issue.
What if you ended up marrying her? Would you have been kind of like what the example that I gave was, that a mama's boy will prefer only his mother's cooking and reject other any kind of food, really? Like, you'll eat it, but you won't really eat it, you know what I mean? But when you go to eat your mama's food, it's so good, and you know what I mean, because you're so accustomed to her food, the spices that she uses, her recipes, that you're so accustomed to that you don't want anything else. That's why I said I have a family member who is a mama's boy. He rejects his own wife's food. So when do you get to the point where you say, okay, wife, we need to work this out so that I can eat at home and I don't have to keep going there? Because honestly, that creates a division as well. If the woman feels like, I can't even cook for my husband because he's so used to his mother's food, he has her palate. And unless I cook exactly like her, he's going to reject my food. What would you have done?
So like for me, it's like I would just have that conversation. Like, you need to learn how to cook. And she would make effort. She would like ask her mom for recipes. Like, how do you do this? How do you do that? So she was making an effort. Sometimes it would taste good, sometimes it wouldn't. But you gotta practice. You gotta learn. Because you gotta eat. You can't eat out all the time. Because what would happen is we would eat out too much and start gaining weight. So it's like I don't want to do that. When I was living with my mom, like it was easy for me to keep and maintain weight. And I was like working out, you know what I'm saying? So I had to think about what I'm gonna eat because my mom kind of cooks like healthy foods because she's a little older. Yeah, so it's like, no, I gotta reconcile. Maybe I gotta learn how to cook for myself.
What?
Or maybe outsource that to a chef, like, because these women don't know how to cook. You know.
So Naz says daddy's boys have no emotion, while mama's boys are all emotion. Is that true?
No, I would say it's not.
Hmm.
I would say it's,
wait, is that from experience from you, or is that from what you've seen?
What I've seen. I would always say a balanced household is where the emotions are usually, I guess you could say, more in control. That's what I've seen mainly. When men or young boys need their mother up to a certain age, and then after that certain age, whether it be 12 or 13 or 14, that's when they need the male scenario to take over. But if there's no balance, they're not going to understand how to even deliver emotions. And that's just my opinion, what I've seen. But I think when you do studies on it, that's correct.
I see that the chat actually agrees with you. I see most people are saying that no, that's not true. That men who raise boys do raise them proper. I don't know. MTR, you guys know MTR, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pardon. MTR, he always talks about how he only grew up with his father. And he says that he feels that he missed an emotional part of his upbringing because he didn't have that mother there, that softness there. He says that himself. That's not just something that people are labeling to him. So I don't know how true it could be. That's why I asked you, is it your experience or is it just something that you've seen? Because I'd rather hear from the experience of a man who's grown up with just a father.
Well, I had both, so I don't know. But what I've seen from men I know and my friends or family, the ones that just had the father, like you just said about that one gentleman there. There's a certain emotion or experience they're missing within their life. So what they usually do to make up with that, they might be a womanizer, they might do drugs, they might whatever. So it's some type of void that needed to be filled from their mother.
Hmm. Because I always say that fathers are better single parents than mothers. I believe that if there is a single parent, that a child will fare better with a single father than a single mother. I know. I can feel the knives already like passing by my hair right now because people are like throwing them at me. I'm sorry, but this is what I've always thought. And if people are bringing up the point that, if you grow up with your father, just a single father, that you grow up emotionally unavailable. I don't know if that's true or not. Oh, people are actually agreeing. Oh, thank God. See, I thought you guys were throwing arrows at me right now. I thought I was gonna be like,
I think I
where does
think
red laser come from? Like,
I think you need both. Both offers different things to the child because we've adapted with the mother and the father. I mean, that's how we've adapted, and we see the effects when you don't get one or the other. You feel like you're missing something. There's a void. You always hear people
mm,
talk about like I didn't have my father. Like me, I didn't have my father, so I felt that. You know what I'm saying? So there's things that was missing, and I had to like teach myself and kind of fill the void for myself by looking at different models and examples of masculinity around me. And then unfortunately, I picked some that weren't the best, but I had to learn through trial and error.
Mhm.
And then I came back full force. But those are some of the effects. But like not having a mom, maybe you can't emotionally connect with another woman. You know,
Mhm.
that affects your relationships. You want to have healthy relationships. They're important for your health, your mental health,
mm,
your physical health. So like there's different like consequences for each one. So I think both is equally as important. We've adapted that way, and let's just keep it like that. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
welcome in, Sarah. There
Hey,
you go.
I don't know if y'all said this or not, but would it be wrong for the sister-in-law to have a talk with her mother-in-law? I know it could cause friction, but just to have sit down and say we need to talk because I'm trying to be the wife here and you're causing me issues here. You know,
Oh my God. So I have a story for you. I have a story. I
gotcha.
had a friend who had the same experience. This is why I'm talking about it today. And she had a talk with her mother in law. Yeah. The mother in law came to, well, they sat down and she said that she wants to change some things and blah, blah, blah. The mother in law, you know what she said? She said, you need to understand, this is my first son. He is my eldest son. And this is the way it has to be. He has to take care of me. Now, that means like wherever you guys go, I'm going to live there, but I won't bother you. I can live on a separate side of the home and you can live on that side of the home. But we have to learn how to live in peace because I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to leave my first son. I I was like, so did you guys physically fight after that or no? I was like, was there physical altercation after that? Because how can a mother actually say that seriously? When the girl actually told her husband about it, he confronted his mother about it. You know what she said? I was just joking.
No, she wasn't.
They're now divorced.
Mm.
Mm.
Wasn't it like this back in the day where the mother-in-law was the mentor to the daughter-in-law? She was like the daughter. And I've noticed how this Western civilization has really separated that and made them two mortal enemies, basically. So when you had the mother in the house with the daughter and the husband, it was like she was teaching her in real time. You know what I mean? How to be a wife and blah blah blah. Now it's like, you're a mama's boy, or it's competition now. But that's how it used to be. Stories I've heard.
Man, I could
So That's how it is in our culture too as well. Like typically the mother-in-law will teach the daughter-in-law how to make the food that she makes so that the husband or the new husband, her son, that if he does want the food that mother used to make, at least the new wife knows how to make it. But the problem comes along when the power dynamics are not set in order. Let's say the husband, he still lets mama run the house. He still lets mama run wild. I think it all depends on the man. It always goes back to the man to me. If the man doesn't know how to set his mother's boundaries and make sure that her and the wife can live in peace, there's going to be issues. If he's a mama's boy who's still suckling on his mother's tit, it's not going to work out because the new wife, she's going to feel inadequate in the home. She's going to feel like she doesn't have any power or no say so in a home. And this is where the problems arise. If the man is still suckling on the tit, this is what's going to happen. He has to be strong and set boundaries. That's why I say you should not go live with the mother. You should never go live with the mother-in-law. You need to bring her to your home because the power dynamics are more in order this way. It's proper.
Mm.
Second thing, would it be possible to talk, even though they're not married, if his dad is around, to talk to the father-in-law, even though they're not married, and say, "How do I handle her? He ain't leaving her. Like if he's stuck, he's gonna be with his mama." It's like where it's kind of getting kind of weird how close he is to his mama, and say, "No, I'm gonna go have a talk with his dad." Or not. Honestly, that's sneaking around. No, that's sneaking around. I would say just look, y'all gotta have counseling, or I don't know. I'm kind of lost on it. Yeah, I'm still.
Cyrus, welcome in, Cyrus. I saw you in the chat and I saw your comment, and I want you to kind of, if you can, elaborate on your comment as well that you had put in the chat. Jonathan JB says, "But Ameera, I love my mom. Leave me alone." I'll never leave my mommy. Never. Somebody said, no, I said a mother's milk is a drug. Oh, is your mic not connected, Cyrus? Oh, it says that you're on mute. Hold on.
There we go. Oh, okay, there we
There you
go.
go. Got it?
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Which points in particular would you like me to, I guess, kind of
the one
bring
that I
back up?
highlighted. The one that I highlighted about, you said there was your. I gotta go back to it, but anyway, you can just bring up your point if you like.
Okay. I'm trying to remember what the point was, but I would say, I'm curious about whether these men, when they're in this situation where they are so deeply attached to their mother, is it even possible for that man to properly facilitate having a wife?
Ooh.
That's the question I would like to ask, my brothers here. So a little bit of background myself. I've had a very twisted version of this where I didn't have that that attachment, right? That motherly attachment. I didn't have that, but I did grow up in that. I grew up in the environment where I needed to take on the role of husband and father to my younger siblings, right? But I didn't get the motherly attachment component. She was still very distant. So that's the question I have for you guys. Like, are men even just capable of this once they have that strong attachment to the mother?
Go ahead.
No, I think like if you get balanced, like when you're growing up, like because I was super attached to my mom. My mom can do no wrong. Even when my dad was around, sometimes like because they used to go at it, I used to look at my dad as an enemy almost, like like because it's like you almost kind of like worshiping your mom because she's the one that's doing like a lot for you, like taking care of you, feeding you, clothing you, shower you.
Well, that's what she has to do anyway.
Yeah, so it's like you're more closely connected to her. But as you get older, like Westside said, you're supposed to be going with your dad because there's certain things that you need to learn as a young man so you can grow into adulthood. But if you're not getting that and you're only getting your mom, then you develop that attachment, that unhealthy attachment, which I think that's how that comes about. So even if you don't have your dad, if you have some type of strong mentor or organization with strong men, I think it could break that attachment and allow you to have healthy relationships in the future.
How And just to push a little further, just how would you, or any of the other gentlemen here, how would you guys propose that men break that attachment? Because I work with some other men, and they deeply have this attachment where they are firmly rooted in the ups and downs of their mother, where they cannot form healthy attachments with other women, to a point where it's very frustrating for them and they can't seem to understand why that is. So I'm curious what you guys have in terms of offering that. And in that scenario, not to speak ill of his father's a good man to a degree, but he's not the role model that he needs in order to understand what it is to be a man in a relationship. He's rather very subservient in his household.
So
The father,
he's like a beta male.
very much so.
This is what I had spoken about before, about the father becoming the first simp out of the daughter, and creating a household of women that are so used to this kind of simpish behavior. This is why I said I believe all of this stuff starts in the home, honestly. That's my view. Because
Yeah.
a woman who grows up thinking that men are supposed to act this way and be subservient to them and all of this all starts at the home for me. And that's why I said I do believe that the simp father does create a monster woman.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
mothers have a hard time letting go, and some mothers get very jealous, so they won't let go. And you know, as a child, our parents are our gods. They are our access to all knowledge possible in the universe. We ask our parents the weirdest questions because, like I said, they are our gods. So as you grow up, we still maintain that fear. We still maintain that desire for their approval. So it's a situation of a lot of mothers are just not letting go, saying, "Hey, I'm here for you if you need me." And they're saying they're still trying to set down boundaries, which makes no sense for someone in your 20s, but that happens. But these men that's a struggle that once these men become adults, that's what they have to go through. They don't want to be cursed by their mother. But I've had to deal with similar things with my own mother, because my mother helps me with my children, and there were certain points though where she was trying to push me out of it, and I got in her face. I said, "You need to stop." I let her know several times, very firmly, "You need to stop. I am talking to you."
Who did you say that to?
To my mother.
And you're still alive? Okay. Well,
Well, like I said, so that's what we're trying to establish. Like, how are these men going to eventually overcome? Well, we still want our mother's approval. If you're just not going to get it, stop pining for it.
and I'm
Live your
not.
own
Look,
life.
I think Wesley, you come from a different culture because there's different ways that we can tell the mother this, but not in those kind of words, because those kind of words in a lot of cultures are.
I like to be very decisive.
Yeah.
Wes, I like that you said that, and I'm definitely with Ameera on this. The use of any kind of strong wording towards one's mother, you're asking to be deleted. Plain and simple. You're asking to be deleted. So I couldn't encourage that, but I would like to ask you, what gave you or what in your upbringing created a space that allowed you to feel the comfort to be able to step in front of your mother and say, you know what you're doing right now is wrong, et cetera, et cetera. You need to back off. What gave you that?
I was actually kind of uncomfortable.
Well,
was, me on my own,
mhm.
I just don't have to deal with my mom. And for a long time, I didn't have to. So I really didn't care. It came to I'm raising my two daughters on my own. Okay. These days, my mother, has been a big help to me, which I'm very appreciative. But there are several times in the earlier days when she was helping me, she was trying to take over as the parenting role and try to push me out. And I can tell you firsthand, as being raised by her, she's not good at this role. So when it came to her actually trying to get between me and my children, that's when I had to give her. I gave her little pushes ahead of time, but at that point, I'm like, I'm done with this. I got in her face and said, "You are done." At a certain point, it's natural. As we grow up, as we become adults, we don't cleave to our parents anymore. And if our parents are having a hard time not being cleaved to, you have to push yourself away.
Can I ask a question?
Please, Patty.
So to Wes and any of the men on the panel that's ever went through this, did your mother ever talk to you about marriage? You know, like say things like, "Son, when you get married, ...
So I'm one of those people. I was fortunate enough to have two parents growing up. Unfortunately, they didn't like each other very much. So there wasn't.
But
There
did
was
she ever sit you down and tell you about marriage? That's what she's asking you.
no. That what I'm indicating is that I didn't have a very strong understanding of what healthy marriage or healthy romantic relationship should look like.
Any of the other men?
Yeah.
Did your mother
Yeah.
talk to
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My mother
yeah.
taught. No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, yeah. I got the broke down of the culture, and I'll say culture just to keep it safe here on both sides. You know, what's inside the woman, what's inside the man, and then on the father side, I got the same thing. So that's why I was saying earlier. It's a good thing for children to have the balanced households nowadays, because you need both entities to teach you how to find that mate and how to live and keep that mate. But yes, to answer your question, Patty, Cakes, yeah, had that conversation.
Yeah, I've had that conversation as well with my mom. She was married at one point for a while with my dad, but they split up. They got a divorce. But she has had that conversation with me. It's just, I guess, her attachment of her not having a companion kind of like spoils everything for me, and kind of like want to kind of like take her advice with a grain of salt. You know what I'm saying? So,
I
but
mean, but when you were younger, though.
like when I was a kid, like
Don't
teenager.
you hear me?
Yeah.
I hear you, Jordan. I hear you.
Not really. I mean, when I got older, like a young man, like 20s, yeah.
Oh, no.
But the teenager, nah. But
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I want to bring up just something really quickly before you guys continue. Jordan brought up a point. He said that it's like a beta simp conversation, that men who are raised to be men understand the dynamics between their mother and wife, and they know where to place both women. That's not confusing. Well, exactly. That's what we're saying. We're saying clearly a mama's boy, you don't expect him to be an alpha type. So, yes, of course, we're speaking about another situation that is common. It is common. And of course, I wouldn't say that any alpha would be in this kind of situation, because most likely the alpha grew up with his father and he didn't grow up with this kind of nonsense. I say that this is emotional damage. Do you guys agree?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you do? She said, Patty. No, but I
Yeah.
believe it's super emotional damage, and I do believe that it's putting extra weight on boys and sons that shouldn't be there. I don't believe that this is right at all, and I do believe that it's abusive in a way. In a way, it is abusive to me.
Yeah, it's very abusive, actually. And to answer Patty your question, no, I did not have that sit down in any way, shape, or form. Absolutely not. There was no sit down about women and men. No, 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 no. But I can say the only thing that I was told growing up was that, one, not to get any woman pregnant as a kid. At the time, I could tell you I didn't really know what that meant, other than the fact that that makes other babies. Okay, that's what I was told. It makes other babies. Don't do that. Sure, I wasn't told how that happens though. The other thing was, if I do bring a child home, she's immediately going to get a DNA test for the child. And that's the only advice I ever gotten from my parents, from my mother, actually, around this. So, yeah,
That's
no, I
good
figured that
though.
out. Nah.
I think that that's good. I'm
But it was
sorry.
good advice, though. I can't deny it. It's something that I'll remember forever. It's just, you know what? Because what it cued me in on is that, one, women women are not the fairy tale goodness that a lot of parents and households and media like to portray them as, right? And that is, as a man, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble dealing with the wrong woman. So I've always had that. I was always looking out for that growing up. Like,
Thank you,
what's going on
Chelsea.
here, right? Even though I didn't get the complete explanation, there was always that reminder of, hey, why would my mom need to tell me that she would get an immediate DNA test? What's going on here? What's wrong with the women? So it
Mm-hmm.
actually encouraged me to become very aware of women.
Mm.
So yeah, it was good advice.
So do you think that maybe like the women who are toxic, the mothers who are toxic, that they try to instill a fear of women in their sons so that he does not deviate from her? Is that the right word? Deviate or distance
Mm,
himself from her?
mm.
I would say that I don't mean to get what you're saying, but I would say, because this is a great question right there. If the mother is psychologically sane, I'm gonna use that phrase there.
Mhm.
She's really giving game to her son and saying, "Look, this is the atmosphere, this is the tuning, and this is how female nature is nowadays. And I don't want you to run into this issue." If the mom is a mom that's good, one that's not controlling or have these objectives, or one that's not trying to raise the son as a beta and blah blah blah. But if I'm gonna say like this: the best pimps in the world are women, passing game down to their sons. And if the son recognizes game within that father's household too, we're gonna say, "Son, church up, check, listen to your mom. I'm gonna show you the other way too, and let's play the game."
Mm.
Disagree. Disagree. Because women, I'm sorry, women are selfish and they train boys to be what they want them to be.
Amen.
And you make oh my God, the majority of the time, what we see is that the women, especially single women, make betas. They don't make alphas. I don't think a woman is possible of making an alpha. I'm going to say that right now. Women, you cannot make an alpha.
I
If you have a son,
agree.
you will never be able to make him into an alpha.
But
Sorry.
I'm saying in a balanced household, like if the female, well, I shouldn't say if the mother is healthy minded. I'm not saying what we see a lot of times nowadays, but if she's healthy minded and the father's in the household, she's going to break down game to that son and say, "Look, son, this is the kind of female nature you do not need to bring in this household. This is what you do not marry. This is who you do not procreate with." This is really what I'm getting at. A healthy
Yeah.
minded mother.
I
I
see
hear
what
what you're
you
saying
mean.
on that.
But that comes from the father. I believe that still
But
comes
yeah, I
from
would say
the dad.
that's more so from the father, because my mother telling me that I would say came more out of a sense of fear, because she was raising me as a single mother, right? And we're from the Caribbean. So she was all on her own. And so that was coming out of fear. If I go out there now and I impregnate a woman, now there's this new responsibility that's being placed on the household, right? Which would just be me and her, and then my younger sister a couple years later. However, the few conversations that I did have with my father, that was game. And he would be defined as alpha, how value, that all that jazz, but a horrible character. Anyway, the point of the matter is he put me on game when it came to women. This is how women are. This is how they act. Don't chase women. Don't follow. Da 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 da. Et cetera, et cetera. So she accidentally put me onto something that I didn't know I needed, and then my father was the one that kind of solidified it through very strange conversation.
Strange conversation.
Mr.
Yeah,
Cooley, you said healthy minded, right?
Yes, ma'am. Healthy minded. Yes.
Okay, because I think there's a difference.
How
Like,
so? Heavy?
Because I grew up different, and again, I don't mean to cut you off, but I is within my American culture, my chocolate American eating culture. I didn't have your culture, and then back in the day, we had this kind of structures. I was the last generation to get this juice and get this teaching. I look at the ones after, and they don't have any type of nothing. And I'm from the South, so we got a whole different type of thing how we do stuff here. So I got some good lessons here, but nowadays it's like every man for themselves. It's sad, but I'm sorry, Patty Cakes. What were you gonna say?
oh no, I think I'm trying to understand what you're saying. When I was younger, my because my aunts, which are we call them aunts down south. So
Yes,
so
yes, ma'am.
so my aunts would tell my boy cousins, watch out for them loose girls. You know what I mean? Like that type of advice. You know what I mean? And I don't think that was like in anything emotional. I think it was general. Just general statements about certain women to look out for so that you don't fall into a trap. Stuff
I
like that.
wanna.
I think, is that
I
what
wanna.
you're referring to?
Yes, yeah. It was, and also they would say, "Stay away from them fast tail gals. Stay away from them fasties.
Fast tail.
Okay.
Fast tail gal.
Fast. She
Fast
fast.
tail. Fast tail gal."
I wanna say thank you to the super chat really quickly. It's from Jake's Moves Lifestyle. Thank you so much. He says, I'm 25 and I'm currently going through this problem now, and I didn't realize that I was a mama's boy until looking back at my last relationship. I was doing everything that my mom wanted me to do in the process to become my own man now.
Mm.
Wow. So, so we were just talking about this. Like, what happens when you get to a certain age? Like, can a man just wake up one day and say, turn around and look at his mama and say, no, stop it, get some help? Michael Jordan voice,
Yeah,
stop
you
it.
definitely can. I had to do it. I had to like take a pause, take a break from her. I actually sometimes want to kind of move away to another state, but I do have a fear like she's just gonna be by herself in the house. But I feel another part of me, I need to go out there and venture out and go conquer and get deeper into my career. Um, I've been making good strides, and I'm not trying to let no type of emotional, mental issues hold me back, knock me out of focus from my career, from relationships again. 34, I'm getting older, so like I'm trying to bring it in, bring it home. You know what I'm saying? So
Brahman says that they're greasy lipped women. I guess that's like an addition to the fast women. I'm saying the fast women, greasy
Mm-hmm.
lipped.
Yeah.
I've never
Them
heard
big
of
greasy
that.
lip women.
I've never heard of that. That's so
And that super chat kind of goes back to what Cyrus' question was. Well, how do you get men to not think like mama boys as they age? And if you can get them around other men that aren't mama boys, and so through social psychology, it may take time. For some men, it will work. Some men, it won't. As they get older and they're around men that just make their own decisions and they are not calling mama, let me run this by my mama over time, they'll realize, boy, you got to get your mom out of your house. You're supposed to be there with your wife. Y'all ain't got no kids. Y'all need to be there by yourselves. And over time, it can develop.
see
I
why can't people just like naturally know that? That's what I'm saying. Like I do understand like, the mother being helpful and everything and helping the new wife come along. I understand that, but there's gotta be boundaries and I think it all depends on the man.
Mm.
the boundary is definitely necessary, and I would also add that the other way in which men will come across this, and I don't believe most men will, to be honest with you. I'm completely of the knowledge that 10-20% of men will actually get this throughout the entire human existence. The rest of them are all they're losers. What will happen is, they need to. For a lot of men, you have a defining point. I think the gentleman here will understand what I'm saying. They have that first real heartbreak, and that pushes them in one of two directions, where they understand what I was doing in my relationship. Something was very wrong here, and I need to understand why it went this way. And usually, and like I said, it takes men one of two places. They go and they look for answers, where they become more aware, and then they start looking into and diving into psychology of things. Maybe they had to hit up therapy, et cetera, et cetera. They start to understand, oh shit, I had problems. Sorry for cussing. I have problems with my mother, with my family, et cetera, et cetera. And they unpack that. The rest, they don't. A lot of guys aren't willing to do the work to unpack that childhood. They're just not going to do it.
Impressive Vibe brought up a point here. Says, I know a guy that every time he moved, his mom did too. Yes, in his house, not her own spot, his.
Oh
Um,
my. That's
it's-
crazy to me.
and did you guys understand why I wanted to talk about this? Because
Yes.
I believe so many people know someone who's going through it or who is, has been through it or someone who's married this kind of situation. This is more common than we think it is. And I remember when I did the show about the fathers being the first simp of the daughter, you guys had brought up like we need to talk about the mama's boys, talk about the mama's boys. And the reason I didn't want to go into it at that time was because I know that the mama's boy syndrome is way deeper and way more painful to everyone essentially than the whole, daddy's little princess problem. The mama's boy problem is it's really painful. I don't know what to say about it.
Can I say something?
Yes, Patty.
I
Please.
think also, and I kind of don't want to limit it only to single moms, because there are some mothers that are married to the child's father and they still interfere. So let's not leave them out as well. And then the husband's like, yeah, well, honey, be quiet. And she just goes on and on for years about the son's wife and yada yada. And I'm sorry. I don't understand that aspect. I don't understand how some men can let their wives interfere with their sons. You understand what I'm
That's
saying?
really a thing, because I don't think I've ever seen it that
Oh yes.
Is it really? Because
Yes.
I mean, usually if the man is there, even his presence brings balance. That's what men don't understand. A man's presence brings balance into the home. So this is why I'm like, can a woman actually get that much control over the son?
Yes, I've seen it. I've seen it. I don't know about anybody else, but me personally, I've seen it.
I've never seen that.
Yeah,
Unless the
I-
father was not really involved in the house, unless he was out all the time or something. That I've never seen it.
no,
No,
there are
he's
some
there.
women that are like that. I've seen what Patty Casey's talking about.
Yeah, no, he's there. You know, but I think that whole happy wife, happy life thing must be some type of factor in that as
Oh,
well. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Beta. He's a beta. Hold on.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to Jake. Jake says, I just wanted to say thank y'all for the conversation. And I was able to start standing up to her in the process of looking at your guys' podcast, as well as Fresh and Fit podcast.
Oh, cool.
That's beautiful. I'm glad to hear that. Tyrell, why are you bouncing? What is going on?
I sit on a ball. If you ever have lower back problems,
He sits on a ball. Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
If you ever have lower back problems, I suggest get the ball. It helps out a lot with your sitting.
We just were assuming you were a child.
I didn't know what was going on for a second. Hi, Mr. Williamson. How are you? Welcome in.
Hey, how you doing? Longest time. How you been?
Being well, thank you. I'm getting better. What do you have on the subject?
Well, it's true that some families, the husband and wife, and the mother will still interfere in the son's marriage, and the father just sit there and like, honey, don't do it, but she'll still do it. So we do have a lot of that
So then
going
what's
on.
worse then? Is it worse to not have the father there or have a father that is a beta?
No, it's actually worse to have a father that's a beta, because then this son think it's okay to be living in that kind of situation, or he grows to resent women as a whole. Uh-oh.
Yeah, Ameera, this is a big subject. Like this is, this is not limited. You know what I mean? I think part of it is the modern women is, this is what I want, how it's going to be. They impose it on their sons. That like this is something big.
I think we need to make another topic about this. Maybe we'll bring this up next week. I'll probably bring this up next week then, because I think it's crucial that we talk about it. I mean, if this is the case, then this brings out a whole series of shows I want to make on this topic, because it goes a lot deeper than I thought, I guess, because I didn't think it could be possible to do like that, to have a man in the house and it's
Also
still
going to be possible that he doesn't feel like he can do better than her. And sometimes he's just trying to keep peace in the house. So, they say happy wife, happy home, but I think that's the wrong approach. Because if the husband is not happy, the home is going to be broken either way. So,
devil's advocate. Give me a sign of life, please. Devil's advocate. There you are. I appreciate it. Okay, I'll bring you right back to Tyrell, okay? Or JB. Actually, I'll bring you back, JB. I'll bring you back in a second.
All right.
Okay. Oops. What did I do? There it is. Okay. Devil's advocate, please adjust yourself first. What are you doing? What is all that skin? There's a lot of skin there. Devil's advocate, can you adjust, please?
Interesting.
I don't know what's going on.
Very interesting. Very, y'all very interesting.
This camera went off. I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry, guys. I am not even gonna guess. Oh, you're back now. Are you wearing flowers? A flower is not gonna cover it, sir. You need to.
Maybe he should just stay down there.
That might be a thing.
Mr. Devil's advocate. Can you put the camera on you, sir, not the ceiling? But please cover. No, okay. Whatever. He's gonna need a minute. Let's just go back to it. I'm sorry, guys. Patty Cakes came back. Sorry, Patty Cakes. I don't know if I dropped you by accident or I don't know what it was.
Real quick, one thing I'd like to add, it might be psychological in some rare cases. Maybe if as a child he saw that his mom was beaten, and he since then psychologically he always felt like he had to protect his mom, be there for his mom, and it hasn't been resolved. If the woman wanted to stay married to him, counseling may be the only way.
Counseling. So therapy to like adjust his issues, his mother issues?
Yes. If it came through childhood, through trauma, from watching, maybe he watched an ex-boyfriend beat the crap out of his mom. His mom just chose bad dudes every time, and he had to be there to protect mom all the time. So now he's gotten older, and his mind is locked in that I still got to protect my mom, and she gonna live with me. And where it's become a psychological codependency through that. Like, mom gets beat down, the boyfriend leaves, he comes in there, mom's hugging on him, he's hugging on her. He's the only child, only son, and so it becomes a psychological binding that needs to be broken.
Tyrell, you brought up a huge point. Do you know that?
Yeah.
We didn't even think about this. I didn't even think about it. The boy who grows up seeing his mother with different men, who's trying to create relationships, maybe trying to look for an actual father for him, like a stepfather, and getting abused in the process in front of him. And then the mental, emotional damage that comes along with that.
Yeah, it's more than just that.
Yeah.
So they did bring up another thought there that is common for people to deal with. But when a parent is kind of a little unstable, especially a lot of times it's the mother, the child ends up being in the parent position.
Devil's advocate.
In the parenting role where they're trying to comfort the adult. So then that child grows up and becomes an adult, and that child is constantly seeking out someone that is emotionally unstable that he has to constantly comfort by, fulfilling roles of the good son.
That's what I was thinking, that protector mode where you just have to, oh my God. Do you have anything, Cyrus?
So I was going to agree with the gentleman here. It's very, very true. In fact, I've gone for therapy for exactly that, right? And I have to unpack and sort through a lot of those issues where that need to consistently have a woman to protect, to guide, to lead, to make up, in short, for a lot of, at least for myself and perhaps for other men of that sort of situation, it becomes this need to make up for what was missing because your father was absent. So it's like, I need to continue this role of being the provider, protector, but I'm no longer within the presence of my mother. So I now need to find this in other women. So you seek out these damaged women to try and protect and fix. Exactly.
The saver.
Yeah. So I can't say that, but the saver complex. I didn't get that far from the love, but I got there and it was a problem. It was a big problem.
That mind's thing.
C brings up a good point, guys. I'm sorry. C brings up a good point. She said she calls it emotional incest. Devil's advocate.
So I was gonna touch on another point in regards to that. It's also possible that a woman is making the son pay for what she feels the dad did or did not do. So in a way, she punished the son by accusing or trying to make him feel guilty in case, okay, if you're doing something, oh, now you're gonna leave me just like your daddy did, or something like that, in form like that. And
Yeah,
then
I
the
want to.
son feels like he has to be there to protect her because he don't want to be like his dad, which she has been brought down so many times. So now, since the way she look at her dad, he started looking at her, the dad, like that, and then he doesn't know much of what happened, but then he start hating his dad, and then he feel the need to protect women because I don't want to be like my dad, and then he go through the same circle, and that's how that generation will bleed, even if it's in the life of his own children, but he become a weak man in front of his own children and end up destroying them more and more. So
And then he becomes the first simp for his daughter. And then
oh
she grows
yeah,
up to be, wow, we have come full
Well, here's
circle.
yeah. I wanted to kind of add to that, but first, real quick, I had this. I have this devil filter, but it's Easter,
Don't
so
tell them what you were doing.
no. Listen, where there's because like there's that that red devil filter I usually use or whatever for stuff.
That was skin, sir. That was not no filter.
Well, yeah, it has horns and everything. It's a play on my name, Devil's Advocate. But anyways, where that usually is, it's Easter, so there's an Easter theme. So I clicked it, and there's freaking like I don't know what it was, flowers on my head. So I was like trying to figure that out. I was like, don't pull me up. But yeah, you got to manage like
They don't
10
believe
people,
you. They don't believe
pulling
you.
people.
Don't
Oh,
worry.
maybe it's just my preference. Maybe I was in a different StreamYard
and
before
another
this
thing,
where I was using it. Anyways, I wanted to add to what he was saying, because do you guys think that it could be because like a lot of times from women's experience, like they have alphas that they can't control, and then they have betas that are willing to do anything they say, but they're not attracted to them, right? So then they kind of raise the son to act like they wish the alphas would have acted, kind of like the betas. They want them to acquiesce to the female imperative, do what I say when I say it. Women can't do wrong because that's the way they wish they would have been treated by the men they really wanted, right? But the dichotomy is like that it's not the ones they want that are the ones that are willing to act that way. I see that all the time. It's like the girls expect things from me because like some desperate guy somewhere did it for them. Like they ask it of me, and I'm like, they're not gonna do that shit. Like I haven't hate it. But does that make
So,
sense? Like they try and get the sons to act the way they wish that their fathers would have acted, like their baby daddies, right? They couldn't control their baby daddy. He left. There was some kind of issue. So they try and train their sons to act like, to pretty much be simps, be betas, right? That's what it seems. And the only people I see that behavior from are the ones that they don't want. And so that's why it's just like this circular logic. That
well, I
doesn't
have a question for the panel. If you guys don't mind, I want you guys to answer this. What do you think about? Is it possible for a man who's raised up with a single mother, who had no man example in his life, is it possible for him to grow up and become, as you guys call it, alpha, or to become a leader, a proper, you know what I mean? Is it possible for him to make himself into, as we call alpha, which just means like leader type?
It is.
Yes.
It is.
I agree. It is.
How would
Anyone
he
here?
know? How would he know what it is if he's never seen it?
yeah, he
And
needs
he
boys
bring
around
him?
him. He needs men around him, pushing him, like calling him out, like stop being that.
That's what I think too.
That's
I
the only
believe
way
you need.
men used to change whenever they show that woman tendencies, emotional side, they just call them out right away. But now you cannot do that as much. And that's why we're having a rampage of men having so much emotion right now.
Yeah, and the proper mentorship. I'm always big on mentorship and rites of passage. Men or boys that don't have the father in their life, that's what they have to go through. They need that mentorship. They need it.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Mentorship saved my life. Being surrounded by good men there's no better solution for that.
I
And
don't
for the
know if
guys
you
who
guys.
are,
I don't know if you guys remember. We used to have a program called Big Brothers program. I
I used to
don't. I
work
don't
there.
see. I don't see them anymore, and that's why we're having all these issues. Like, they used to have men that mentors young men that's going
Hmm.
through stuff, but now everything is out of whack.
So
So
my situation's a little different because I think I am pretty far from having a mentor growing up. Like my mom, um, no one. If you watched my life, you would agree that none of the men that she picked, like or dated or introduced me to, would have qualified as like a good mentor for me, like a good example for me. Like one might have been really athletic, but he had like he's cheating or she found out he had a wife and kids. Like there was never like an all around good guy that she found. So I think mentors are great. That's probably my top pick for the list, but it's also possible through adversity because I would say that
Hmm.
what made up for me not having a mentor was sports. Like I was always competitive, and like that drive to win is what taught me what I needed to know to survive in like the corporate environment, control the controllables, like how to fail and keep going instead of just get emotional and give up. Like most
But
of
did that
that was
help you
through,
in? But did that help you
reading.
in your romantic relationships? Is what I'm asking because I'm
yeah,
talking about a well-rounded man here who's.
definitely. It's funny because like it's not often you think about how sports have helped you in romantic relationships. Obviously, there's obvious reasons like the status from like being a college athlete, but when it comes to learning from failures, definitely because what defines relationships is how you handle the lows. Anyone can go on a fun date and have a good time with each other, but when you're in that argument, like that happened once every year or 2 years, and you have like a really you know core disagreement on something important, how do you communicate with each other, or when you think your man or your woman didn't handle a situation right when they were getting hit on, like how do you communicate that? Do
So
you
is
go
it
and do
possible?
it? Do you go and get revenge, or do you talk about it? Like, so I think
The
yeah, well, sorry, go ahead.
Is it possible that you hanging around men playing sport actually change? So that's is another form of hanging around men.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and also it's possible that you saw the way these men are, and in your spirit, there's something in your spirit that wasn't like pushing, that was kind of pushing you away from those type of behaviors, and that's kind of why you turn out the way you are.
yeah. I
The
mean, when
men's
you
sports, your coach might have some kind of hands
I-
in you
yeah,
staying in check as well. So
yeah, I had a great collegiate coach, but I mean, I was track captain in college, so that's not as much of a team sport, and there's not that same camaraderie as with most other sports. You're kind of competing against yourself. But like you learn a lot of important lessons in track too. Like, for example, in basketball, if LeBron James jumps for someone's pump fake, it could be a trash basketball player, but they could still score if he makes a mistake to jump for a pump fake, right? But in track, if Usain Bolt shows up and runs his best race, he's going to win hands down. He's biomechanically the fastest man on the earth, and you can't do anything about it. And sometimes, like if you're in sales, you can't close 100% of your sales. So, question is, are you going to close as many of them as you can and leave as good of an impression as you possibly can to get the ones that you missed to possibly come back later when it is time for them to buy, when they do have the money, etc. So, like, track kind of taught me to control the controllables where you can, and that you're not always going to win. Whereas with basketball, like you kind of always wondered, like, how if we would have pressed, if we would have ran a 2-3, could we have won? Because you can get upsets a lot more easily in sports like that.
Thank you, Devil's
But yeah,
Advocate. Mr. J. Speed, welcome in, welcome in. How are you? Oh, here, I'm sorry, I had you muted because of the echo. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just go sit in the background for a minute or two to catch up with what the conversation is all about, and thank you for letting me in on your panel. I hope everybody had an amazing day and enjoyed yourself and stayed safe.
Yeah, thank you so much. Does anybody want to catch up, Mr. J. Speed?
Well, we're just
No?
talking about. I just want to hit on what everybody was saying, and basically, from what I was my input to, I'm really big on mentorship, and I definitely want to hear what you want to say on that, J Speed. Mentorship, and this is for applies to anybody, but in particular men that didn't grow up with fathers in the household. Mentorship, Big Brother, we talked about that. and men basically taking the little boys underneath their wing and teaching them malehood and teaching them life lessons and such things like that.
Okay, that's an
Yeah.
easy one for me.
And also
Um,
one more thing, Mr. J. Speed, also the mother and son dynamic being toxic when you have that. But you can address that after Mr. Cool explain if you like.
I think it all applies to all of it anyway. Um, the most important thing I found out when I was growing up as a child, and one of the things I try to instill with all four of my boys is sometimes you as a father, you're not born with a blueprint. You're only as good as you was taught when you came up. And what usually happens in that, and sometimes we as fathers, we get egos too when we can't reach our children. And a very important lesson of me, there's certain things my father could not reach me on. He was brought up in a different time, 1909. There was just certain things. I mean, I was at his wayside all the time, but I found mentorship in boxing and martial arts by being exposed. I don't know if they even have these programs anymore in schools where they would take you outside of your safety zone. Like, I never know what a YMCA was, and that's the first time I was introduced to martial arts and swimming. Because in our neighborhood, we didn't even go swimming. So me being introduced with the PAL in my city, Charlotte, North Carolina, as I grew up, mentorship came from police officers who were boxers themselves, and I boxed in the gym, and they was able to reach me on a lot of things because we are really, really open to people who are teaching us stuff, especially something we are excited about being taught. And so these are some of the things the fathers have to learn too. Don't get jealous when your uncle, your brother, or your mother's brother can reach your child in something, because I've seen other parents react in a bad situation like that. Like, you go listen to him, but you ain't gonna listen to me. I'm the one who brought you into work. You can't be like that, because whatever your child gravitate to, and if it's good, let him keep pushing on him, because that's something he gonna use for the rest of his life. Now, when it comes down to mothers, I had 11 sisters in my house. I didn't even know underwears was cotton until I grew up and started buying my own underwears, because everything was hand down. So that's not to say I wore women underwears. What I'm just saying is there's a lot of things happening to them, that dynamic in the household where you got a lot of sisters, and I was the oldest boy. I was the first boy, and all my uncles and aunts. So what I would say to when it comes to mentorship, I think that's where we fall in lack of sometimes, even our leaders and stuff, so-called leaders, that they take all this information to them with the grave. If they don't share it in a speech or something, they don't have people, a group of people around them where they can excel them to a different level and a different mind thought. And I think this is probably one of the most problematic it is in the new generation, because they really just counsel people like me out. I mean, I had to work hard to be respected in the YouTube street. Most of the guys my age, 62 years old, they wouldn't have patience enough. They'd just say, forget it. If they don't want to learn. But the way people taught me that you have to be patient, because we all don't come into consciousness at the same time, just like a fruit tree. All fruits don't come to be right at the same time on that same tree. So we have to look at people and children, individual, and if you find something, you happen to be a father or a mother, and you find something they are interested in and it's positive, let them do it. Let them do it. Of all sakes, let them do it, because that might excel them into other avenues that they wouldn't listen to you, but that person who has their ear and their mind could turn them into something great.
I got a question for Jay. It was said earlier on the show that no father present would be better than a beta father present, and I think I would disagree.
I
I
totally
was
disagree with that.
Yes, because the thing that popped into my head was the white community versus the black community. You know, not to cast judgment on the white community, but there are a lot more fathers present. But there are also, in my opinion, I think in white culture, there's a lot more of a willingness to stick around even when the kid's like not wanted. Whereas in like the black culture, I see a lot of this has happened to my friends. Like a woman will get pregnant and think that I got a man now. Like their standard of finding a man in life is like seduction instead of convincing him to be, to choose her as his wife. I think
Mr.
that's a
Williams?
huge problem too. So
Mr.
that,
Williamson?
Yes. Um, DA, do you know how it feels to see your father being that weak around your mother? You know the kind of effect that it can have on you? That's like very devastating.
I
Can I
agree.
answer that before he answer that?
Go ahead,
Yeah.
DA.
Answer that question. The first initial question was asked him, and let me just put this in. It used to be a time a piece of something is better than nothing at all, and I think we disassociate, I say, we counsel ourselves because we too unquote into words and labels of these days, and I don't think most of the people even know the definition of the word they're trying to describe, even though they know the definition of what it says in the dictionary. That's not live. That's not real life. You know what I mean? Let me just give you what I'm talking about. I have a brother's night and day from me. His father was Puerto Rican, and we called him a bookworm. Y'all would call him a nerd maybe 20 years ago. I don't know what the names y'all call him now. He never read anything but comic strips. From the time I remember him ever picking up his books, he read nothing but comic strips. And his father was totally different from my father. His father didn't, my father didn't hit me neither, but his father wouldn't allow my mother to spank him. Now, you might call that a beta male and say, well, he just had a different way of reaching a child. He said if you want to reach a child, you don't use the lowest denominator to try to, you got to watch my vernacular. I was taught by one of them old guys back in the South, so sometimes my word don't come out exactly the way it is, but I think you get my point. So he said to reach people, you reach them in all different kinds of ways. And the most important thing when you're reaching a person, what you want them to learn, knowledge. And if you're teaching a child that only way you can apply knowledge is violence, that child will grow up to be violent. And so when you start talking about these beta and other name males and all this other stuff, they just have a different way of compensating. You can take Anton. He's totally different than most of the males you would walk around the street. Now, like when I see people come from Africa, they don't walk around like black guys with the chest all out. They be have their flip flops on. They be walking around like the world is. You see, you got different types of people in the world, and there's no one way to anything. You got to understand that. And as my last two children, the way I ran my household for my last two children versus my first three, it's totally different. I got a totally different outcome. I believe sometimes showing strength, too much strength in the household, turns that child into a not a what you call it, what these mean dogs
Emotionally unavailable.
the dogs that they fight a lot, not the Rottweilers, but the one
Pit
the
bulls.
pit bulls. There's a totally difference between a big bull in L.A. and one in Beverly Hills. What is the difference? It's the same breed. What is the difference? It's how them dogs are trained. And so we come from a background. I come from a background where you got hit with a strap and you got to get hit with this. You got hit with a frying pan, a sagging breast, anything that your mother could have hit you with. So what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to say is when it comes down to disciplining a child, I think we just in re-educating ourselves into that, much less walking around with your chest. Now, his father was strong. What his father did, he was a leader. He was a provider. He made sure he was a protector. Not because he had to walk around with a gun around his house, not because he had to raise his voice. It's because the way he applied things in his life, that everything around him, because he used to have a quote, if you learn to control yourself, you control everything around you. And so a lot of times I think we get these bad relationships when we base that on an individual, how an individual is supposed to carry themselves. It has nothing to do with an alpha male or a beta male. It's how you construct your household, the outcome you get from it. And so if you got a weak father, that might be okay, but I just gave you a remedy to that. You got some people on the outside. You got your uncles. You got other people's on the outside where you can get that balance of life. And maybe you might grow up and find out your father wasn't so weak. He just didn't wear everything on his chest.
He just picked his battles, right?
Got it.
Amir,
Wow.
can I ask you a question?
I think Mr. Williamson wants to say something. Can I get
Oh,
him first
okay. I'm
and then you,
sorry.
Patty? Is that okay?
Yes, yes. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, Jay, according to the story you just shared right now, your brother's father doesn't seem weak to me because he actually run the household. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. I heard
Be-
what you just said.
because technically he ran the household by not by telling your mother like, this is how I want my house to run. Are you getting me? So he wasn't weak by any means necessary. Are you getting me? So that in a way is strength in itself. You don't have to beat a child in order to train it, but he set the example like, nah, woman, you are not about to discipline my child this way. There's other way around. And she fell in line with that. That in a way, when the son sees that, it's also a lesson of strength.
Yes,
Are
sir.
you getting me? So
Yeah,
it's not like
I
it's
totally
not like
understand
so
you.
it's not like you have to beat your son in order to teach them a lesson. But there
Yeah.
are certain situations that you can discipline them without like hurting
Yes,
your
sir.
son or
Well,
anything.
then maybe the bigger question I should ask you: what do you consider as a weak father?
What do I consider as a weak father?
Yes, sir.
When the mothers become the disciplinary in the family.
Well,
Hmm.
I
that
don't know about that.
now, if I came from my generation, most of the disciplinary that was done in the family was from mothers. The father, he could come. Like, look, my wife, when I worked 16 hours a day, I come in the household, come in. She could be in cussing and fussing, or if you want to use them terms, fussing with the children, tagging with the children all day long. I come through the door, they at attention sitting on the couch. I didn't have to say one word. So you understand, even a child know the difference between the two parents. And so a lot of time them fathers didn't have to say anything, just their presence made moves in the house. So that's why I want to get a greater understanding of what you're meaning, other than just disciplining child. What would you consider a father that would be so bad you think he should be just totally absent from the house?
Okay. If you see a man like the woman really is running the house, you can tell when a woman run the house. The man will drink a lot, most likely be smoking a whole lot. He doesn't own much. He's the woman is running the house. The woman is running the house when the man really don't want to come home. Or whenever he comes home, he either drunk or on some kind of something because he doesn't really want to deal with her and her emotion. When men sees that, or even daughter sees that, it break their souls down because the mom used that as a way of talking down on their father as well, and that kind of like continues while you the way you look at your dad is no longer as like your hero. It's more like somebody that's living in your house, and
So
mama
there's
will be better off without him there.
so
I'm
there's
gonna
a
let
math.
Cyrus handle that, but I got to follow
Oh yeah,
up
sorry,
after
Patty.
Cyrus. Cyrus, go ahead. You wanna?
Yeah,
You had your
Patty
hand.
Yeah,
wanted to say
as
something too.
I was going to ask, is it sounds to me what you're describing is actually a man who is not leading his relationship with his wife,
Yes.
and then the damage of that is what's trickling down to the children. Is
Yeah,
that
because
what you're
then
describing?
the son, now the next relationship he get in, he feels the need, right, to kind of protect mama, which is the next, wife he gets. He overdo what he feels his mom told him about his dad not doing. He feels he has to overdo.
So in what you're describing, when the husband is not leading the relationship with his wife, i.e., the
Hmm.
mother, the son now sees this and is compelled to compensate for what the father is lacking.
That sometimes
And
he
that
didn't really
describes a
lack
weak
anything.
father.
Sometimes he didn't really like anything. Men don't really like conflict within their home. right? So some of them deal with it different ways. Some might go into violence by putting their hands on the mother or their wife, right? Some of them just end up drinking a whole lot so that they don't have to deal with her because they don't have the conscious mind of dealing with her sober, right? And then sometime while they're drunk, they end up doing just what they didn't really want to do, put their hands on the wife or the mother. And then when the son sees that, it lead to something else. So
Okay,
it's like,
I want to jump in this, all right?
and I
Because
understand that a father's in the house helps in a way, but sometimes it bleed down a generation, and especially if the daughter sees his dad, he look at men differently. So now when she deals with another man, he really don't have any respect for the next man because she never had respect for her dad.
okay, and I really want to hit on this because when I asked you the direct question, a lot of the things you told me was things I would consider just being a man who was negative or who was irresponsible of his own self, much less trying to run a household. Now I know I couldn't apply this to the new generation where they run their household, but let's just be honest. Women runs the household under men's direction, regardless if he say anything or not. That's her position to run the household. That's why he's outside of the house to fund the household. So let's just take that off the table. Well,
I
let's just
kind of
take
disagree with that, brother.
okay. Or I say I couldn't apply that to the new generation, and I'm just saying not for the new generation. New generation is something totally different. But I'm just trying to give you as we was better marriage, our marriage statistics and our percentage was much better when the woman was in the home and the men were out there working more than the women. Due to the day is 65 to 70%. I don't know what the correct number is. The women are working outside the household. But when there was a time when women used to stay home, and that was their kingdom, under the direction of the man. She knew exactly what that man expected of her, how to run the household when he did come in. But when you start involving alcohol and being irresponsible because that's the way the woman was, maybe he was just an alcoholic. And so that's why the children. I'm just saying. Say I wasn't there. I'm only taking but information that you're giving me right now.
Okay.
But I came up with my aunt and my uncle who was alcoholics, and I sat there and watched them all my life shoot at each other like target practice from almost like 3 years. Shoot each other up, not to kill each other, but just what alcohol brought in the house. That's why I have never touched it. Okay. And so what I'm trying to say is you can't take certain things that on the outside of the household might have been with that man, but way before he got with that woman. But I wasn't there, so I can't, tie all this together. But I'm just saying is you can't come out with anything good when you got alcohol involved in the first place. Another place, when the man comes in the household, usually he don't have that much time after he get through with his job in the first place. He usually have just enough time to eat, take a bath, and to hit the sack. And I just want us to understand, I really want to try to get a great understanding is, regardless of what, how could a beta male, not a beta male who's a drug addicted person, not a beta male who's an alcoholic, not a beta male who's just a bad human being, just the word beta himself, how could he be so bad he's not even worthy of a household?
Hey, y'all. I don't mean to interrupt, but I need to take off, and I just want to tell everyone good night. Great meeting you all. And
All right, man.
J Speed, I really enjoyed listening to you, man.
Thank you, sir. You have an amazing rest of the day.
Happy Passover, everyone.
Yeah, same to you, sir.
Ameera, can I say something, please?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go. I know you. I kept going on. I do apologize.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So I've seen certain. I've seen men that were in your situation, Mr. Williamson, and when they got to be adults, they decided I don't want to be like that person. I know I have issues, so I will say there are a lot of resilient men that say, because I grew up in this type of environment, what do I need to do to change? And they do the work, and they go off and they get the counseling, and they go off and then they make themselves, I guess and I'm trying to answer Ameera's question as well. So I do think that some men that have no male influence can actually grow up to be uh, uh, masculine or alpha or whatever the term is.
I agree. I wanted to add to that because that circles right back to Amira's question: is the difference between a mama's boy and having just someone that has respect for their mom is like, I think I wouldn't consider myself a mama's boy, but I would respect my mom. I think even more than a mama's boy would, because through watching the way my mom dated men and raised me, I know I couldn't date a woman that has a lot of her temperament. Like, she's very dominant, top, like one of the, she'd be at the tip of the bell curve for women as far as, assertiveness and disagreeableness. Um, Definitely not submissive by nature, but she likes like the alpha type. So I've always seen that clash like in her dating life. And I think the to not be a mama's boy, you have to be able to recognize even your mom's shortcomings. And mama's boys like respect their mom's actions and words as gospel to their mom's detriment. Like, because it's not good when you don't have anyone in your life that's going to stand up to you. And if there's not a father in the home, then you're the only person that can tell her, that can disagree with her,
But then you can't
And
disagree with her, honestly.
so I think that mama's boys are more likely to encourage like bad behavior from their moms, whereas like I realized very young, like the traits that my mom had that I wouldn't tolerate from women my age. Obviously, I respected her as my mom and I'll always love her, but you have to recognize that they're humans too and they can make mistakes. And it's hard to push back against people you love, especially when they have power over every aspect of your life when you're like 14. And she's,
Timothy,
it's
feel
just,
free to call in if you have a disagreement with Mr. J. Feel
yeah.
free to call in.
Yeah. So, and I think, Amir, we should stay honest. This is a very important difference in philosophy between Jay and E. Williamson, when you made the point that he doesn't think that it's better not to have a dad than a beta dad, because he didn't say bad father. He said beta father. I think betas can be good fathers. And so I wanted to hit this at a different angle and ask Eric. He thinks that if the female's the disciplinarian, then they're a beta, and it's better to just, for a father not to be there, is what he implied. And I wanted to flip that on him and say, if there's a family where the father is the nurturer and the mother is not a nurturer at all and is disagreeable, would it be fair to say that it's better that that mom just doesn't exist in the family? And I would disagree. I would say that a mom in a family where the father's the nurturer would be better than no mom at all. Just like I would say that female disciplinarian with a beta father is better than no father at all. Does that make sense? It's kind of like, I kind of flipped it in a weird way.
No, I understand. You used it with changing the genders around and changing the roles.
Exactly.
I understand what you're saying there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. What I can say on that is really, men most likely can change faster, but if that man has a daughter that is also growing up in that household, this kind of lack of respect that daughter will have for men goes generations and generations, right? Lack of respect from the daughter will lead to her not respecting the next man, and that will continue the bad trend, when it comes to generation after that. So that's, the man can change, but it's really bad for a daughter to see her father in that role where the mother is actually taking charge of everything. That's
Well, we might even if we agree.
Okay.
Eric,
Okay. Let me for example, do you think if she's meeting her mate, right, that she will go through her dad to get approval, or she would just go ahead and give her own approval on that and just date that man, marry that man, and it won't work out because she never went through the route of respecting the dad because she really don't respect the dad.
Well, give me 10 seconds because we're not debating on whether it's bad or not to have a beta father. We're asking if it's better to have a beta than no father at all. I would agree that it's bad. You know, when all these examples you're using, I would agree that, yeah, it's bad when a man sets a weak example for, you know, in any aspect of the relationship. But the question is having nothing there in that place better? Because there are
let me
so many
clarify
aspects of
myself.
fatherhood, you know, like not every man's going to be in great physical shape
Let me,
or assertive and
DA,
dominant.
let me
So go ahead.
clarify myself. You are being a DA, I'm being AA, angel advocate. Okay, so
Sure.
we are trying to look at things from two different points here. So I'm not saying a dad completely not being at home is better than, you know, I'm also looking at the effect of having a weak man at home bleeding out of to a point where a dad won't end up being at home because it stems from household that has a weak man in home or to begin with. That's all I'm saying. I'm not
Yeah.
saying completely. We're just looking at it from two different points. I'm not saying having a dad home is better, but I'm just also talking about the effect that a weak man actually being in a home can have, especially on the daughter, on how she, you know, perceive men, right? Because she's always looking at trying to find the strength that she never find in her dad in other men.
So in that case, you're saying that is better for if it's a girl in the home, if they have a daughter, then that in that case it's better. But if it's a son, then what?
Men
Because
can normally, you know, because men talk to other men, and when they see some bull crap on men, let's say the DA is doing something, you know, silly, men is most likely going to call DA out. But if they see, let's say, Patty, you know, doing something out of line, the chances of women calling out Patty is going to be slim to none, right? So that behavior, men can correct the bad behavior they have because other men can do and will hold them accountable. While on the other hand, it's rare. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just pointing out some certain aspects of having a weak man in home
Mhm.
and what it can actually have, you know, the lasting effect it can actually have on, you know, families going down the road.
Mm-mm.
I don't
Sure.
know. Does anybody disagree with
I
me?
still disagree.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jay, if you want to.
See,
Oh, I
absolutes
mean
is
Cyrus. After Jay, please, Cyrus. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
okay. Absolute has always been a problem for me. All right, because just take the instance I was saying about when my aunt and uncle got us, and the way their lifestyle was versus the lifestyle that we was used to, drinking alcohol and all that other kind of stuff. All the children that was raised under there never touched alcohol. It did the reverse of what you said. All right. And so seemed like by your argument, if we had had them example, they would have drawn this in. That's why I hate absolutes.
So
You want to interject something?
yeah, okay. Let's say for example the dad is not there, but you still have role models around you. You can still turn out better than having a father at home that is so weak to your mother.
I think,
You can still have male role models like your uncle, your grandfather from your mom's side that can still, you know, mold you to be a man. So it's not like you don't have male figures in your life, but having your father at home can actually, in a way, for me, cause more harm if he's really that weak.
yeah, and so can toxic relationships all in general with bad habits mixed in the soup together. But what I'm saying is, we can't make things obsolete, because for the same outs there are for little boys, there are outs for like aunts and other female people in churches, organizations, and everything else that a little girl could get. I could see if you were saying that's what really. I could see if you were just saying that he was toxic towards the children versus what the children see, that it would have this great effect where you believe the absence of that parent would be better. I could see that. But
Only
just
more
between
that.
the relationship, well, no, let me finish.
Okay, no
Just
problem.
between the relationships, how many people really, just let's be honest, did you know, and I know, and I'm going to ask everybody on the panel, how many people you know that really goes out, I know it's a good saying, but really goes out and date who their parents date? You know, so I think we live in a different time and a different day that people can make adjustments in life, and I think that's what it really comes down to. Regardless of how the parents is as far as their relationship, if it's not toxic towards the children, the children can have a fair chance of making adjustments in life and move on. I don't think it just be stuck on one sex of a child, if it's male versus the female, and then all of a sudden she gets the brunt of it, but the male don't get a brunt of it because he's got other outlets. I think there's outlets for both children, and I think that's what children do. We grow up and make adjustments.
So, is it possible that children don't know what toxic is until the mother tell them, okay, this what your dad doing to you is toxic? Is it possible?
I think that's part of what the making adjustments in life is. We learn as we go. That's why I say there's no blueprint in any of this. We learn as we go. Because if a
So,
child believes that's all it is, like some people have never left their counties, and they think the world is where they live at. Until they grow up and make adjustments in life and move to different places, then they have a greater understanding that there's another world out there outside their county. I think children and human beings, all in whole, just make adjustments in life. And it's up to you, regardless of what happened to you between number 1 and 18. It's up to you. Now you get to carry the baton. And it's up to you to educate yourself. It's up to you to find the places that's good for you. It's up for you to find your sweet spots. I think a lot of times that, and I am a person who know the difference between a reason and an excuse. But what I'm trying to say is, we're all human beings, and we make adjustments in life, and none of us go be the same. And no children are raised the same, regardless of you say alpha male or beta male.
all I'm
I
saying
think
is,
there's some self-awareness too in that. I mean, if you grew up in an environment like that, and you're you become an adult, and then you say, I don't want to be like my mom, or I don't want to, do the things that my dad did. There the now we have Google, and now we have counseling to where you can get it online. You know what I mean? So that you don't make the things that you don't want to do. You can deal with it. For
but
example,
okay,
my mom, good mom, but there were some things that she lacked that she just didn't do. And me and my sister talk about it all the time. And so, as a practice, of course, we go and we get counseling, and we'll chop it up. But the thing is if you have the excuse of, well, what about isms, and
DMO.
you know I don't know if if that'll work, and blah blah blah. No, 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 no. You, the individual, have the opportunity to do better, to make changes, to whether it's happening to the female in the house or the male in the house. So I don't know. It just like J. Speed said. He said excuses. So I just think that it's within yourself to be self-aware of your environment, of what you went through, and to say, hell, I'm not going to do that anymore. And how do I get out of that? And even
DM,
if you can
can I get you to
position yourself, you can position yourself. Like, let's say you do come from a bad environment, a bad household, a beta, whatever. You come from that environment. let's say you go off to go to college, you establish yourself, you're going to be surrounded by other people. And so you can learn from them or ask them, hey, what was it like? And they'll tell you, well, my mother never hugged me, or my mother was over self-consuming. They might share some, some similarities, but it's all
Yes.
in you surround yourself
What was
around
that?
too.
Dion, can I get you to give me a thumbs up, please, or sign of life? Okay, good. All right. Thank you so much.
So
Welcome in.
in regards to that, I think one of the issues that we have in the society right now is children growing up and say, I don't want to be like my dad, or I don't want to be like my mom, because they see what their mom or dad went through as, how should I put it? They feel like, either the mom had it bad or the dad had it bad. So they say, I'm not going to treat my own daughter this way, or I'm not going to treat my own son this way. So they try to do opposite of what the parents did that make them actually successful, right? That the parents install in them a moral compass, but they took that away from their own children because they don't want to, quote unquote, treat their own children the way they felt their own parent treat them. Sometimes because they went to school and the school says this is this and this is toxic and this is toxic. So when they go home, they see it and then they start looking at their mom and dad, you know, parenting through the eyes of what they're hearing from outside. And then they say, I'm going to do opposite. And then they wind up raising their own kids to a point that they don't have that value that their own parent install in them.
But that's what parenting classes and things are for.
But parenting class is also part of educational system that has to adhere to certain rules. They have to adhere to certain rules.
Hey, Ameera, this is my time. I gotta go, but you guys, thank you so much for this wonderful discussion.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you bring a topic like this up again. Big ups to Mr. J Speed, dropping knowledge. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot. I really have. You all have a good night.
Much respect.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.
Have a good one.
Oh wait, J Speed, I need you to unmute yourself. There you go.
I say thank you too, but and believe it or not, this is not a one-way conversation. I have learned so much from the new generation by keeping my ears open, even though I've communicated with them. I still learn so much because this is you all time. I'm just in the background who just trying to be a little counseling when you need it, but I'm learning so much from you all too.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Dion.
Okay, just to comment on.
Mr. Dion, 1 second. I'm so sorry. Can I get, because Cyrus has been waiting like 20 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
But after Cyrus, then Mr. Dion, please.
Welcome, Brother Dion. One thing that I'm noticing in the conversation is that we've expanded beyond the nuclear family, right? We're starting to look at what happens to this child as they become more mature and exercise their own autonomy, right? But I think we need to bring it back because the conversation was centered around whether the weak father should be present or not. And one of the things that I am not hearing is that having an example, be it good or bad, is still beneficial because you now have a benchmark in which to judge your future spouse against. Whereas a child growing up without an example is walking into the future blind when looking for a spouse. And they are now left up to the powers that be it the media, their friends, whatever the case may be, to frame and decide for them what is good or bad when it comes to a future husband or wife. So I just want to encourage everybody to think about that. Having one present actually is a benefit, be it good or bad, because we now have a benchmark to move forward from, right? It allows them to build.
I want to ask you a question. I know I'm going to get to Dion too as well. I'm sorry, just really quickly though, question about that, because does it matter if the beta father is biological father or stepfather? Is that still a good example?
I would say that when it comes, I'm not a father myself, but I would say any example in the household is a good
Okay.
example.
So you're saying any example? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in the immediate household, because I know it was mentioned that they could go to their uncles and stuff like that. I'm not factoring them in because there's no guarantee that they're in close proximity and that they will be involved in that child's day-to-day life.
Okay. Okay then. No, that was my only question, if it mattered or not. Mr. Dion, welcome in.
All right, thank you. No, I was just gonna add to it as far as whether it's better or not. It is better to have a father in the home. I agree with Cyrus. At least there could be some type of benchmark, and it is better to have a father in the home. Also, statistically, it shows that children are more prone to do much worse, whether as far as incarceration, suicide, drug abuse, and so forth, molestation. Without a father in the home, a child is vulnerable to so much more happening to them. Also, I've seen grown people just wanting to meet their father, wondering why their father left. And these are grown people, and they just need to know what happened. Why haven't you been in my life? So it also affects the child mentally and emotionally. Another thing is it affects their decision making also as a child and into their adult life and throughout their adult life when they don't meet their father. So there's a lot of things that affect the child and into adulthood, but just by not having a father in the home. So that's why I think it's much better to have a father in the home, because at least there's not as much damage.
Earlier I pulled up some statistics to that back exactly what you're saying, because there's this fact sheet. If you Google fatherless generation, it's got sources cited at the bottom. But I pulled this up as soon as Jay and E. Williamson disagreed, because it doesn't obviously, that fact sheet's not going to differentiate between whether the absent fathers were alpha or beta, whether the present fathers are alpha or beta. But like, everyone should read through this, especially if you're in the Black community, because I'll hit you with three. Children with fathers who are involved are 40% less likely to repeat a grade in school, 70% less likely to drop out of school. Then there's like stats relating to like rape and STDs, or just rape with a G, sorry. 90% of homeless runaway children are from fatherless homes. 71% of pregnant teenagers lack a father. And then it says 14 times the national average, 10 times the national average. And I don't think, I was an econ major, so when I see those numbers, it strikes me like the way a sad story would strike a woman. Like, numbers like that draw emotion from me, because the way I think, I'm just analytical and logical. Because I immediately make the connection to the Black community with 70-something% fatherlessness rate. These statistics are amplified in our community because of so many fatherless homes. So again, you're contributing to these statistics when even if the father is a beta, which again, the most men are betas. I think it is important to make that distinction. Ameera, you've talked about the 80-20 rule. 20% of men get about 80% of the women.
About 80% of women. Yeah.
And so, let's call it, if you're in that 80%, then let's call that, if you have work to do to get in that top 20%, then you're a beta, but it's still better for you to be there for your kid, because at least then they won't become one of these statistics. And again, I read you 3 out of over 40, and they are all just as important, arsonists, high school dropouts, teen pregnancy, STD contraction. It's all worse when someone comes from fatherless homes, because those kids are more, they're more likely to take risks, and that translates to chemical abuse, sex, just things that negatively affect your academic career. So
dying
I think that
on motorcycles and such,
exactly, yeah, every aspect of life.
I got a question for y'all on this too, because I'm a huge person that believes in this kind of stuff too. I think we really need to get back to where we don't have boys and girls in the same classrooms. We got to break down um, our own societies to train girls and boys how to be men to women. So what I'm saying is we need to bring back these charm schools and stuff like that. Because I look at what's going on nowadays. Nobody of my generation, this millennial generation and after, knows how to be a wife, knows how to be a husband. They don't understand that. So I think, needing to have a certain age group where it's just boys in their own environment, just girls in their own environment. And then every now and then they'll come together and do the dinners, the dances and stuff like that, how to date and all this kind of stuff. But we got to get back to how we have to be amongst each other, how we can teach each other, how we can live amongst and as a potential husband and wife, because we're lost out here. We're really lost.
You got that right. You had it right.
And
Also,
I would add, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, also, we just need to educate ourselves because just like Devil's Advocate, he read off those statistics. When I read the statistics, it blew my mind that not having a father in the home makes a dramatic difference, or it can make a dramatic difference in a child's life. And we just need to educate ourselves and have understanding. I've talked to a lot of mothers about this. Unfortunately, a lot of mothers wouldn't want to give up their power and allow a man in the home, even though it would benefit the child. And so that's another problem I run into.
Well, there's a lot of distrust now between mothers and fathers. Women don't even trust a father to be a good parent.
And you can use that, as I used it to get physical custody of my daughter in 1997 here in California, which was almost impossible if the child is still breastfeed. That means that the mother had to be so bad but it wasn't. It's because I used statistics. I used the Texas study to show the importance of a father in the household, and I used that part of my case to show the court, and I introduced it into evidence, and the judge had to read over that statistic that shows. So I was able to get more than the average person walking in the courtroom who would be with a lawyer, because I took accountability for my own case and fired the lawyer, and I started pursuing the things. I didn't try to be a lawyer. I just found the most important thing to concern to my case, and I was able to walk out of that courtroom with my child. But even though I know the statistics as the father importance, in that same conversation I know the importance of a mother to that child too. So when that child got a certain age, I know that she needed balance. She needed a feminine part of her life, and I returned her to the mother. It was not a court order or anything. It was just me taking accountability of what I could bring in my daughter's life and what her mother could. So we can use statistics, and you can't get away from around that. Even if you want to say a small sample size, it is what it is. We see the results of what it is today. And that was a great thing, Westside, when you said that we needed to divide the children, because I came up through the Nation of Islam, and that is a practice of us. And we produce better children to adults and to human beings. And that's one of the things that I think. Another thing we should stop is to act as if we are not the government. The people are the government. We send people to represent us in Washington, D.C., but we are the people, and we can take more accountability about have self-determination for our community and just the human race itself. So I think that these are the things that we should be focusing on, because policies are made by the people you send there to represent you. So we are the government.
Oh, that's one conversation that I gotta stay away from, because I disagree very much.
Yes, ma'am.
I disagree because the government is the enemy. But okay, thank you guys. I want to say thank you. I have to get going, but I wanted to say thank you guys for joining me. We had 2.5 hours. That's more. That's more than I usually do. I usually just do 2 hours and be done. But
Can I say one thing on that real quick, Ameera?
Yeah, sure.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
I was gonna ask. Okay, so back in the days, like maybe before 1980, men and women would still stay together even if the dad is weak. But now, what I'm saying, what brought on all this breakup that we're seeing, the statistic of broken family. Most of them is not like it was like out of wedlock, children. It's like after the children, the wife decided to go her way, right? So some of that stem from that. So it's not always that having baby out of wedlock, because they do not consider everything. Anything that's any family that's being raised without the fathers at home is considered a single parent home. Am I correct with that? And then, so what I'm saying is when the father is weak at home and the daughter is also there, when he sees a man, because he sees what the mothers go through, and see, okay, I don't want to go through that with uh, any man. So if she sees that in half baby's father, she don't want anything to do with him, even if it's something that they could still work out, even if the mother did work those things, stays in the relationship because of the children, but she will quit earlier, and then that becomes a statistic because the father was weak to begin with, and she
Mm,
didn't want a man that has any of those traits
right,
in her father. That's all I'm saying.
right.
Yeah.
It breed more bad eggs. I'm not saying it's not good. And like I said, if your father is not there, the the male relative can still raise that boy to be a man. Are you getting what I'm saying? So
I think we get it. I think we do understand, correct, panel? I think we do get it.
Yeah, we understand. We just at a point of the fork in the road that we just see two different exits, and I think it's just going to take a lot more conversation, and till we can get some clarity of what is our position and where we go from here. Thank you for letting me on your show. I always wanted to be on your show. I've been watching your show for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I always wanted to come up and give my opinion on some of your topics.
Thank you so much. I know the topics can be a little bit controversial sometimes, but this is what I love talking about. And this has been very valuable for me, a very, very valuable conversation. And I don't know, I kind of do want to make a little bit of a mini series about this kind of stuff, like family issues between, father, daughter, daughter, mother, everybody. Um, I do want to keep this kind of going, but I'm not sure what we're going to title this. But thank you guys for joining me, and I thank you guys for being so civil with one another. I know it's a hard conversation, a hard topic, and even I get teary eyed sometimes just thinking about some stuff about family issues. So I do appreciate everyone. Thank you guys for joining me. It's nice to see you guys again, and I'm so happy to be back. Bye, guys.
they're safe now.
See
All
you
right.
next
Thank
time.
you, Amir.
Thank you. Bye bye.
All right.